The Talmud. What is its structure and purpose? The Talmud is the central text of Rabbinic Judaism, functioning as a vast legal and philosophical work that expands upon the written Torah, the Tanakh, and the oral Torah. It consists of two main components: the Mishnah, circa 1400 BCE, the core text of the Jewish oral law, compiled in writing by Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi around 200 CE. It organizes Jewish law into 6 major orders: Zeraim, or seeds, which covers agricultural laws and blessings; the Moed, or festivals, which are laws of Shabbat and the holidays; the Nashim, or women, which are laws that cover marriage, divorce, and family law; Nizakin, or damages, looks at civil and criminal law; Kodashim, or holy things; temple laws and sacrifices; and finally Tarahot, or purities. And these are laws concerning ritual purity and impurity. Component 2 of the Talmud consists of the Gemara, developed between 200 and 500 CE. These are the rabbinic discussions and an analysis of the Mishnah, compiled in 2 versions: the Babylonian Talmud, or Talmud Bavli, compiled by the Amoraim in Babylonia, and is considered the most authoritative; the Jerusalem Talmud, or Talmud Yerushalmi, compiled in the land of Israel, completed earlier but less detailed, and while not inferior to the Babylonian Talmud, it is seen as less authoritative than it. The Talmud is guided by key themes throughout. Halakha, or Jewish law. These are the legal discussions in the Talmud. They form the basis of later Jewish codes, for example, Rambam's Mishneh Torah and the Shulchan Aruch. Then we have the Agada, or the narratives and ethics. The Talmud is filled with parables, folklore, and ethical teachings, often in metaphorical or mystical form. And finally, we have the dialectical method. It is here where the Talmud thrives on argumentation, comparing different rabbinic opinions, and deriving conclusions through logical discourse. The historical context and influence of the Talmud is extensive. The Talmud was compiled in an era of Jewish exile, serving as the intellectual backbone of Jewish survival. Despite its dense and complex nature, it became the foundation of Jewish education and jurisprudence for centuries. The printing of the Talmud, circa 16th century CE, led to its widespread study, shaping Jewish thought worldwide. With all that in mind, we must always remember that the Talmud didn't emerge in a vacuum. While it is rooted in the Torah and Jewish oral traditions, it was also shaped by external influences from surrounding cultures, including Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian, Persian, Greek, and Roman legal and philosophical systems. Some of those ancient Near Eastern influences include Sumerian and Babylonian law, circa 2100 to 1700 BCE, the Code of Ur-Nammu, and Hammurabi's code, predating the written and oral Torah, and contain parallels to Jewish law, such as property rights, contracts, and punishments for theft and injury. The Talmud civil law discussions often reflect similar concerns, but refine them through moral reasoning and divine command rather than mere state enforcement. Egyptian law code influenced Jewish concepts of purity, slavery laws, and ethical monotheism. These were in part a response to the lived experience of the Israelites in Egypt. The Talmud often references Egypt, particularly in discussions of justice and oppression. For example, the phrase we find throughout the Talmud and the Tanakh, "Remember you were slaves in Egypt." Persian influence, circa 539 to 330 BCE, under the Achaemenid Empire, Jewish legal structures coexisted with Zoroastrian concepts of cosmic justice. Some scholars argue that certain Talmudic ideas of reward and punishment reflect this influence. The Talmud Bavli, compiled in Babylon, absorbed some of these Persian legal and cultural norms, particularly in commercial law. The greatest influence on the Talmud came from Greco-Roman philosophical perspectives. The Hellenistic period, which extended from 300 BC to 100 CE, brought exposure to Greek logic, rhetoric, and philosophy. Rabbinic argumentation, like the Socratic method, shows a similar back-and-forth structure. Add to that the later Roman legal system, which influenced aspects of the Talmud's civil law, including contracts, torts, and judicial procedures. The Jewish court system, the Sanhedrin, had to navigate Roman legal authority while maintaining its halakhic independence. During the medieval and early modern era, Talmudic interpretations grew more to take in the expansion of Judaism beyond the boundaries of Israel. Over the centuries, the Talmud underwent significant transformations in how it was studied and interpreted. In the Gaonic period, 600 to 1000 CE, the Gaonim of Babylonia, for example, Sadia Gaon, systemized the Talmud study and responded to challenges from the Karaites and Islamic philosophy. One of Judaism's greatest minds was Rashi, from 1040 to 1105 CE. His commentary became the default interpretation, making the Talmud accessible to later generations. The Tosafists in the 12th to 13th century CE in France and Germany expanded on Rashi, engaging in deeper dialectical analysis. Then came the Sephardic rationalism and the Renaissance, led by Rabbi Moses Maimonides, also known as the Rambam, in 12th century CE Spain. He systemized Talmudic law in his Mishnah Torah, favoring clarity over endless debate. Many new concepts of teachings have emerged in what we can title the modern Talmudic interpretations. Today, different schools of thought approach the Talmud in unique ways. First, we have the traditional Orthodox approach, which emphasizes detailed study through classical commentaries such as the aforementioned Rashi, Tosafot, and Rambam, and follows the halakhic conclusions of later authorities. Beginning with the Baal Shem Tov, we have the Hasidic and Kabbalistic approach. This way views the Talmud not only as a legal discourse, but also as a mystical text that reveals deeper divine truths. There is the academic historical critical approach. With this, scholars analyze the Talmud's formation, linguistic shifts, and historical layers. With the introduction of Reform and Conservative Judaism, the study of Talmud tends to focus more on the ethical and philosophical aspects rather than strict halakhic rulings. And finally, we have now entered the age of digital and AI-assisted study. Modern tools like the Sefaria, ArtScroll digital editions, AI-driven analysis make Talmud study more accessible to a broader audience that would normally have never had the means or ways to access this treasure trove of rich Jewish thought and debate. The Talmud is both a guardian of tradition and a product of adaptation, evolving with Jewish history while maintaining a strong connection to its ancient roots. This dual nature, anchored in the past, yet fluid enough to engage with new realities, has ensured its survival and relevance through every upheaval the Jewish people have faced. And we have faced our fair share of disarray, upheaval, and exile. The Talmud continued its evolution through exile and the diaspora. Each major exile and civilization shift forced the Talmudic tradition to adapt, influencing both its content and methods of study. The post-temple rabbinic shift, circa 70 CE to 200 CE, is when the Talmud began shifting from oral transmission between rabbi and student to written documents. With the destruction of the second temple in 70 CE and the end of the Aharonic priestly system, Judaism had to redefine itself. The Talmud became the central framework for Jewish law, replacing temple-centered rituals with halakhic debate and Torah study. The Yavne Academy, led by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, laid the groundwork for the Mishnah, shifting the Judaism's survival strategy from temple sacrifice to intellectual preservation. During the Babylonian refinement from 200 to 500 CE, the Jewish communities of Babylon and within the Persian Empire were more politically stable than those in the Roman-occupied land of Israel. This allowed for the meticulous development of the Talmud Bavli, which became the dominant text over the Jerusalem Talmud, due to its greater depth and clarity. The Babylonian academies at Sura and Pumbedita became the intellectual centers of Judaism, shaping study methods that persist to this day. Next, we enter the Islamic Golden Age from 700 to 1200 CE. Believe it or not, back then, unlike compared to today, under Muslim rule, the Jews enjoyed relative intellectual freedom, leading to Sephardic advancements in philosophy, law, and science. Scholars like Saadia Gaon and the Ramban systemized Talmudic law, making it more accessible. The Karaites, who rejected the Oral Torah, challenged the authority of the Talmud, prompting rabbinic scholars to clarify and defend its necessity. The hardest period for Jews to have access to and continue study in the Talmud occurred in the Christian Europe and the age of censorship from 1200 to 1700 CE. In Christian-dominated Europe, the Talmud was repeatedly censored, burned, and banned. Despite persecution, rabbinic scholars such as Rashi and the Tosafists expanded Talmudic study through intense legal analysis. One of the greatest benefits for Talmud proliferation and study was the invention of the printing press by Gutenberg in the 15th century CE. This one invention revolutionized both biblical and Talmudic scholarship, making it more widely available, though often with Christian-mandated redactions such as removing anti-pagan critiques that the church saw as attacks on their Christianity. From 1700 CE to our present day, we are enjoying a period of enlightenment and modernity as it relates to the Talmud. The Haskalah, or Jewish Enlightenment, took off like a rocket between the 18th and 19th century CE. This led some Jews to question traditional Talmudic study in favor of secular knowledge. Meanwhile, the rise of Hasidism and the Lithuanian Yeshiva movement reinvigorated intense dialectical Talmud study. 20th century saw the Holocaust devastate European centers of Talmudic learning. Yet survivors rebuilt major academies in the United States, for example, Lakewood, YU, Chabad, and in Israel with Penovez, Mir, Brisk, and so forth. I predict that the more ambitious and yet problematic periods for Talmudic study is the digital and AI age we are currently living in. With the exponential growth of artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence, the Talmud is now at another crossroads where technology is shaping its study in ways unimaginable just a few decades ago. Digitization and accessibility on digital platforms such as Sefaria, Mechon Mamre, and AI HaTorah allow instant access to full Talmudic text, commentaries, and cross-references. AI tools can now translate, summarize, and even analyze Talmudic arguments, making study more accessible. Havruta, or paired learning, is now across borders. Traditionally, Talmud study was done in face-to-face paired learning. That means you have a rabbi, student, all studying together face-to-face, learning, debating out loud, arguing, studying the facts. Now, however, Zoom shiurim, WhatsApp Talmud groups, YouTube and Rumble lectures like the one I'm doing here bring the Beit Midrash to every home. AI Havruta programs such as the experimental GPT-driven Talmud assistants allow interactive Talmudic debate with a virtual Havruta. The challenge in debate between academic and traditional studies is ongoing. Universities are using historical critical methods to analyze the Talmud's evolution, while yeshivot maintain classical approaches. AI is now helping bridge these two worlds by providing comparative textual analysis between manuscript variants. This wide access and availability brings challenges to traditional authority. With AI interpreting Talmud, there's a question. Can an AI posek, or halakhic authority, ever exist? Most would say no, but AI is already helping analyze responsive literature at unprecedented speeds. The Talmud's traditional methods of dialectic argumentation and precedent-based laws are surprisingly similar to modern AI decision-making, raising deep philosophical and ethical questions. In closing, here are just a few thoughts to ponder on the Talmud's future as you go about your day. Do you think the digital revolution strengthens Talmud study or risks diluting its depth? Can AI ever be a true Havruta, or is something intangible lost in the process? And finally, will the Talmud continue evolving, or is there a point where modernity will erode its classical form? Whatever, the pendulum of history keeps swinging, and the Talmud, as it always has, will find a way to survive, adapt, and thrive, and be fully understood when Mashiach arrives. May that day come soon and in our time. I want to thank you so much for allowing me into your life and time frame for this all-important breakdown of the Talmud. I hope you found it not only informative, but helpful and enlightening. In a future program, I will be examining the art of Talmudic reasoning, so be sure to hit that notification bell to stay informed of new videos. If you enjoy or even disagree with what I present here, please like and subscribe, and feel free to share with others and leave your comments below. All my videos can be found on Rumble, YouTube, and across the various social media platforms. Links to my Shmu's Views Locals community, Substack, and Blogger page are in the description of this video. Links to and access to digital access to the Talmud are also listed below. So until next time, I want to wish you shalom.